midnight each day.
On Valentine's night,
Time as you know it freezes.
20 minutes past 10.
Keep up, Doctor.
Thinks we're going to smother her in her sleep.
I'm a grave digger, Doctor.
I was at home,
David is my husband.
all on my lonesome.
Stabbed him with a steak knife.
Nothing changes.
I'm a qualified angel of death.
When I'm dancing,
You get this day over and over.
Hilda.
I black out.
I don't think she's got long.
And Laurie just...
Naked on the beach.
Hannah.
Is that it for today?
Hello again, Doctor. I had a bit of a shaky loop incident, but let's not talk about it. Yesterday, I set fire to Hannah's clothes in the garden. I just wanted the day to move forward. I instantly regretted it. And lo and behold, here we are, a new day. Hannah's clothes are a pile of ashes. I've kept almost all of her stuff as she left it. It's just the clothes. I decided to burn those yesterday, so here I am. Hannah loved clothes. Every season, she'd donate her entire wardrobe to some charity or another, and only buy stuff she loved. I was left with winter. I don't even know what her favourite season was. Does it matter? If you like winter, you're supposed to be hard-working and analytical. I suppose that increases my chances of you curing my problem. I don't think winter was Hannah's favourite season. Not colourful enough. Being snowed in with Hannah, just the two of us. It was paradise. Decker felt that Hannah was holding me back. The memories of Hannah. In his opinion, I was holding on to the past. So I guess he cursed me, if that's even a thing. I don't really want to talk about it, but let's just say I blame him for the way I am. Can you give me some advice, Doctor? I've been trying to think how I can get past today. I've come up with a couple of choices. I could set fire to Hannah's photographs. I've got them in Dropbox anyway. But setting fire to the clothes did the trick. Or setting fire to a rocking chair. She sounds like an old lady, but she loved that rocking chair, which I've not sat in since. Which one do you think's best? Photographs it is then. I'll let you know how it goes. I think fire is very primal in terms of energy. Maybe if I burn something, my days will keep rolling. Although I'm not sure you're supposed to encourage arson in these sessions, Doctor. I was at Henley Church on Valentine's Day, visiting Hannah's grave. It was the anniversary of her death. Her parents wanted a huge funeral with all the trimmings. Hannah would never have come for it. It does give me somewhere to visit. I got to write the epitaph. I'm not religious, but when I wrote Hannah's epitaph, I knew her parents would want some acknowledgement of the great bearded one. But she was an angel to me. I can't imagine anyone ever replacing her. Not that I've looked. Do you think I should look for someone else? I still don't think I'm ready to move forward in that respect. I left Henley Church about 11 o'clock on Valentine's Day. I was talking to an archaeologist who said it uncovered some fossils resembling a strange cephalopod-like creature. Strange place to find an octopus, really. Maybe I misread. Maybe she was just being kind. I suppose most women wouldn't enjoy me talking about my dead ex for hours. I suppose they find dinosaur bones everywhere. Just because we're on land now doesn't mean millions of years ago this place wasn't at the bottom of the ocean. Hannah was forever giving to charity. Her things, her time, our money. I actually suggested a charity that Dr. Decker mentioned called Mindstretch Outreach. It's for poor, clever kids who can't afford private education. It's not much of a charity, I guess, but it certainly ends up with a lot of clever people who are thankful to the people running it. Which, in this case, is Dr. Decker. I think Dr. Decker set up Mindstretch Outreach so that he could influence the minds of children at an early age, getting them to believe they could be anything they wanted to be. Since his death, it's been disbanded. No more minions of Dr. Decker. It just felt like he was growing this child army of intelligentsia. It was a missed call. It was Valentine's Day, so I wasn't in the mood for conversation. What? Do you think I've got something to do with Dr. Decker's murder? Maybe you should ask your assistant who Decker saw that day.
It's the anniversary of my parents' death today. I went to the lake house. I always go to the lake house anyway, but it's also where they died. They died of carbon monoxide poisoning. I was staying at a friend's house, otherwise I would have died too. I remember my friend's name. She was a girl from my school. Vicky, Charlotte. It's not really important. It was a faulty boiler, I think. It's okay if you think I killed them. You wouldn't be the first to draw that conclusion. People can be so cynical. I'm used to it. They were very good parents. It was hard letting them go. I was still very young. Too young to be an orphan anyway. I had to toughen up quickly. It's peaceful there. It's the place that makes me feel the most. There was a girl there, by the lake, only about 9 or 10. She was fishing, if you can call it that, with one of those nets on a stick. She lives on the other side of the lake. She must be new. I haven't seen her there before. She looked sad. I don't usually talk to children, but she seemed different, special. I'm allowed to talk to her, aren't I, Doctor? It felt nice. I felt like I was being nice. I felt human. So I can find her and talk to her again, Doctor. I'll look for her next time I'm there. She's seen some of the skins he hung around the lake house. I didn't go inside. I forgot my key, and the spare was missing. David hunts, then skins. It's horrible, really. He's not really good at either job, so the skins still have great lumps of bloody carcass hanging off them. I'm sure he'll get better with practice. I suppose she just reminded me of me. I spent a lot of time alone as a child. She said she was trying to catch some strange creatures that she's seen in the water. I don't know. Minnows, probably. Everything's strange when you're a child. Met isn't the right word. David has always been there, in the shadows, on the periphery. I move in very exclusive circles. You tend to see the same faces. Those people were my parents' friends, not mine. Lots of people, lots of men, saw that as an opportunity. Some tried to seduce me. Some thought I wanted a new daddy. Most of them were the same age as my parents. And yet I'm the one here talking to you. Yes, money. Everybody wants it. But what use is it really? Look at me. Am I happy? Am I loved? Am I living? The day Dr. Decker was killed, I had a session with him in the morning at my usual time, 11 o'clock. That was the last time I saw him. Dr. Decker made me an offer that I couldn't refuse. I'll be taking it to the grave with me, though. Valentine's Day night, I was at the lake house, watching David, like I always do. He has trouble with his mental faculties and is getting worse. Yes, I watch him and make sure nothing bad happens. It seems like he's always been in my life, one way or another. He was a family friend. It's different now, of course, to when I first met him. I felt like he was protecting me then, watching over me. Nothing could hurt me when he was there. Dr. Decker was more animated that day, excited even. He talked a lot. Instead of his usual sarcasm and rebuttals, he seemed genuinely excited. Presumably he had a date.
I haven't had a great day, to be honest. Someone accused me of stealing from my patients, which I would never do. Plus Hilda's getting worse. Well, it started with this. It's a locket. Alice, one of my patients, gave it to me before she died. It was the one thing she held on to right until the end. Her most treasured possession. She said she wanted me to have it. You don't argue with a dying person's last wishes. I have a few other things. A watch, a ring. One patient gave me a little china bird. They're not valuable, just trinkets really. All of the patient's belongings should be passed on to family members after they die. But Alice's son never visited. He didn't care about his mum. Why would he care about some worthless piece of jewellery? It just doesn't feel right to me. I don't see the harm. Alice wanted me to have it. You and Terry and all the other nurses just don't understand. One of the other nurses, she's actually trying to make out that I'm some kind of HSK, healthcare serial killer. You know, like those nurses that kill loads of their patients. I'm surprised you haven't heard of it. Anyway, because a few of my patients have died on me, and some of those patients have given me gifts, Terry thinks it means that I've been killing them off. Hilda's the one I mentioned in our last session. She's dying. I can tell. I need to see her before it's too late. People who are dying always have things they wish they could do before they go. We leave a lot of loose ends in our lives. We're very messy that way. Hilda wants to see her daughter. She's in Australia, so I'm going to have to use my talent. I can change my skin. What I look like. I can turn into a patient's loved one. I just hold their hand and ask them to imagine that the person they want to see is sitting right here next to them, and I become them. It's how I help them move on. That's how I comfort them. I only shift at work to help my patients. I don't have any interest in using it as a party trick or to deceive anyone. No, it doesn't hurt at all. I don't think it's a physical thing. I don't think my body actually changes. I think it's more like an illusion, like my energy changes or something. It just sort of fades when I let go of their hand. Obviously, I can't see myself, but I feel it leave me, if you get what I mean. I think it needs that connection. I've shifted a few times now. I honestly couldn't tell you how many. I'm helping them. She never held back, spoke her mind about everything. But she had a wicked sense of humour. I can sense it, you know? It's like when you're outside and there's a sudden change in the light or the air feels different and you know it's going to rain. It's like that. I always know when one of my patients is fading, even before the doctors know. Their energy changes. It sounds silly when I put it into words. I sound like my mum. My mum's a nightmare. I said she was into all this new age stuff, right? So she thinks she can tell me what I should be doing all the time because she got a message from her spirit guide that said I'm not eating well, or I'm not getting enough sleep, or I'm not looking after my inner moonbeam or whatever. It drives me nuts. But she's my mum. I love her, so I have to take it. It's not the same for the other nurses. They don't have my special talent. Dr. Decker almost certainly had unfinished business. He didn't know he was going to die. But it's too late now. That's why I have to help Hilda while I can. Actually, I had a hot date. It wasn't anything serious, just some guy I know. But it was a nice date, different to what I'm used to. It was very traditional, old-fashioned, you know? Dinner at a nice restaurant. Then we went for a little walk along the pier, held hands, had a bit of a kiss. Then he called a cab and I went home, alone. I think it was about 11 when I left Max. I'm sure you could check with the taxi company if you really wanted to, if you think I need an alibi. His name is Max. He's really sweet, but I don't see a future between us. He's not really my type. I've known Max a couple of years, but this is the first time we've been on a date. I don't think he's boyfriend material. I didn't lie. I'm really not interested in dating anyone. I just went out with Max as a favour, for a friend. Like I said, it wasn't anything serious. I had a session with Dr. Decker on Valentine's Day. 3 o'clock, I think. Just a few hours later, I still can't get over it. Dr. Decker seemed fine on Valentine's Day. He seemed to be in a good mood. It didn't seem like anything was bothering him. We talked about families, I think. Our mums. I probably spent far too much time talking to Dr. Decker about my mum. Decker and his mum had a few issues. That's what I liked about Dr. Decker. It wasn't just him asking me questions and analysing me. He talked about himself as well. He said he had a few patients like me, you know, with special gifts. He said not all of them were as enlightened as me. You know, I know what I can do is special. I see it as a good thing. But apparently some of his other patients saw their abilities as a curse. Dr. Decker hated that. He said he wished they could all be more like me.
I haven't been back to the beach since our last session, and no blackouts, new doctor and new hope. You're much better behaved than Dr. Decker. Dr. Decker dated his patients. That's not good behavior, is it? I think her name was Scarlett? One of his patients, an older woman. I guess that's how he liked them. We went out for drinks. Didn't you know? He said it was a breach of something or the other, but I can be pretty persuasive when I want to be. I think Dr. Decker ordered neat whiskey. I had water. I don't drink. I guess it was a couple of days before Valentine's Day. It wasn't a date or anything. I noticed in our sessions that he'd been acting a little strange. He just didn't seem right. I wanted to find out what was wrong. I didn't do anything on Valentine's Day. I washed my hair and then I walked along the beach for the whole night. It's actually true. I saw one of your patients actually. The nurse. She was on the pier with someone. Pretty much all of the night too, so I can vouch for her even though she probably didn't see me. I haven't been back to the beach since our last session. I've kind of missed it. I suspect I'll go back there soon, but it's helped with the blackouts. I suppose Dr. Decker was more than just a therapist to me. We had a lot of things in common, but we weren't seeing each other. Not seeing anyone at the moment. Are you offering, Doctor? It sounded like an offer to me, Doctor. Some girls say that they're washing their hair when they don't want to go out, but I was genuinely washing my hair. Do you think my hair is pretty, Doctor? I'm insecure, Doctor. Isn't it obvious? I've danced around in my living room, but no clubs since last time. I like dancing around in my underwear. Sometimes less. Shh. I know, it's pretty hard to believe, isn't it? I feel pretty ugly. But I think I have a nice smile. Lots of people find me attractive, but I've seen something truly beautiful. It makes me feel dull by comparison. I have a recurring dream where I find something beautiful in the sea. But I don't know you that well yet, Doctor. Let's wait a while before I tell you my most intimate secrets. I want to stop having blackouts. I want to be able to remember. I want you to fix me. You're a lot of our sessions, he would be pretty impartial, a passive listener. But towards the end, he liked interfering. Like, he wanted to push me over the edge. I'm not sure how this therapy thing works, but if you're talking to a guy who wants to jump off a cliff, don't tell him to jump. I just felt like I had some kind of special power, and part of me wanted to use it, and he urged me to do that. I don't want to say any more about it, not now. It's a bit chilly in here. The leather's not warm either. What is it you're thinking about when you're not listening to me? I think your button's undone. Yeah, you've a button undone.
Sorry to cut in, Doctor. I've just had a phone call from a solicitor. Ben's trying to sue us for nervous shock. Should I go and see him to talk it out, or should I find a solicitor to represent us? Sorry to be pushy, I just think we should act quickly before it's too late. Okay, well, just let me know. Thanks for helping me with this grief thing. I'm not sure I have it though. I don't really know where to start. I feel a bit numb. Maybe we should just talk about him. He was a quiet, solitary man. A good listener, as I suppose you'd need to be. His confidence did grow as time wore on, but that's what you'd expect after you've fitted in. I mainly miss our chats. He used to work late with me and tell me things about the patients, things that I probably shouldn't have heard, but did. What do you think of the patients? Nah, perhaps you shouldn't say. You can ask me, go on, I'll tell you what I think. We'd work late together on all sorts of things. He was preoccupied with finding patterns in patients, trying to find some kind of order. Mainly he was searching for a common experience the patients might have had. That's what led them to his office. He'd study everything, even the referral letters. Letters, parking tickets, holiday destinations. You know, I find those referral letters, he was sure there was a pattern in them. I think Bryce has a lot of misdirected anger. I don't think I like him that much. You know, sometimes when things overrun, he's outside waiting for you, and he stares at me as if he's undressing me with his eyes. You know, he's not the first person that's done that, but still, you know, it feels worse coming from him. Claire seems to be shaken by something. You know, I offer her drinks every time she comes in, but she always refuses them. It's as if she just wants to come in, get her session over with, and then run off to do something else. It's a bit rude, isn't it? Elin seems like a lovely person. I'm not really sure why she's here. Ariana is a special girl. You know, there's something about her that just makes you want to follow her. Maybe that's what a trendsetter looks like. Oh, I just want to cuddle Nathan all up. He's such a mess. He's always in the same clothes. You know, he barely talks to me though. It's the same hello every time. He reminds me of Tom. Tom was a quiet mess, like Nathan. Youngish, in his early 20s. He taught piano, but he did have a strange hobby. Tom liked to base jump. That's basically falling from a huge building or mountain and pulling your parachute before you hit the ground. He started to think he could fly. Dr. Decker tried to talk him out of it, but Tom had to prove his point. So one day, Tom decided to base jump without a parachute. Can you guess what happened? He was hit by a rock from further up the mountain. He never got to fly. Nathan thinks he knows what his problem is too, but if he's not careful, he'll get hit by that rock. I wish I'd said goodbye. I wish I'd said goodbye to Dr. Decker. It was so sudden. You know, here, then gone. He resigned anyway, but that's not the same, is it? Dr. Decker resigned shortly before his murder. It's sad, but doctors come and go and only poor Jaya remains. I've got his resignation letter somewhere. I do all the hiring and firing around here. Well, Professor Alderby and the Trust technically do that. Professor Alderby is a trustee. Did I not mention that? Should I get a solicitor, or shall we try and talk it out with him? I'll go and see Ben to see if I can get him to call off the dogs. I have no idea what's gotten into him. Perhaps it's his mum. She was cuddling him like he was 6. He's 25. I think I'm going to get into trouble now. Have you ever heard of secret shoppers? Well, Professor Alderby posed as a patient to test Dr. Decker. It's just a thing that he does. I'm sure he'll come and visit you at some stage, so please play along. More like gently guide. Professor Alderby had a lot of good advice to offer the young psychiatrists. He really helps them focus on where the problems are. This practice is owned by a trust. They make all the money and leave me to make all the decisions, which generally means making lots of money. I headhunted Dr. Decker. And you? I've recruited the last 5 doctors since I've been here. I've got a flair for recognising the extraordinary. Both you and Dr. Decker were extraordinary. It's both top of the class, both pliable, obedient slaves to my every whim. That last one's more of a hope than a must-have attribute. On Valentine's Day, Dr. Decker had a session with Claire Castleford at 11 and that nurse, Elin, at 3. Everyone else cancelled. You should see this place Christmas Eve. I was at home though, so I don't actually know who came in. Dr. Decker did phone and ask me for Nathan's number, which is a bit strange. One step ahead of you, boss. Elin was picked up from the pier just after 11 p.m. There is no way she could have got from there to here in an hour. Oh, Doctor, you surprised me. It reminds me of Officer Yates. Did I ever mention I had a special friend in the police force? Nah, it's not something you drop politely into a conversation. He's been doing some digging and he's found a couple things. There's a crime scene report that goes into all the gory details and another report that's about a patient you're seeing today, Claire. I'll put them both on the desk for you. And thanks for the grief counselling, by the way. It's really been helping, I'm so glad you're here.
I've been to the lake house regularly, keeping an eye on David. I saw the girl again, the one I told you about. She was playing outside. I didn't speak to her this time. Something about her made me feel uneasy. I just watched her from the bedroom window. She'd caught a fish. She was holding it in her hands. I wasn't close enough to see, but for all intents and purposes, it looked as if the fish bit her. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Once I caught a fish alive. Oh, I found the key. It must have been there all along, in a drawer in the hallway. I could have sworn I'd looked there already. That's what it says. I can see you're confused. The police say that David is dead, fatally wounded when I stabbed him. The coroner says that David is dead. Everyone says that David is dead. There was even a funeral. But I know he's alive. He's buried at Henley Church. You can go see for yourself. There's even a headstone. One of your other patients was a pallbearer. I never forget her face. You should ask him. He said he'd been with Iris for about a year and that he loved her. He said he didn't love me anymore. Which I know is a lie. You don't just fall out of love with somebody. I reacted badly. I grabbed the nearest weapon I could find, which happened to be the steak knife, and stabbed him with it. There was so much blood. I instantly regretted it. So I fixed him. My neighbours seem far more interested in my business than they are their own. The lake house only has one house opposite, and it was on sale for some time. I suppose I should have bought it. It's a messy business, stabbing someone. You'd imagine that it would be like slicing into a pie with all the filling just slowly oozing out, but it's so much more dramatic, like popping a cork of a bottle of champagne. Blood sprayed everywhere. The steak knife was the closest, sharpest weapon I could lay my hands on. I didn't really have much time to think about it. It was a spur-of-the-moment thing. What is it with men and affairs? Is that why they have a shorter average lifespan? I brought David back to life. Not with voodoo, not with virginal sacrifice. I just willed it to happen, and it did. Dr. Decker told me it was possible, but only if you're not buried. He says once you're in the ground, there's no coming back. But until then, you have a chance at resurrection. Now that I've seen the results, I don't think there's anything holy about it. I think reanimation is more an accurate term. Like, I'm an evil necromancer raising things from the dead. David was dazed and confused when I brought him back to life, as you'd expect. He was scared. He didn't want me to go near him at first, which is understandable, as I did kill him. But I didn't really succeed in bringing him back. He wasn't a big talker before, but even monosyllabic words were more than what he seemed able to give me. He made sounds. I could understand him a bit. I thought he'd improve with time, like a child learning to talk, but he didn't. It's only recently that I've come to that conclusion that he's not going to get better. He's not going to be right again. I think it's his brain. At least he is safe where he is. He doesn't move from there, for good reason. David shouldn't be alive, so he can't just stroll around the neighborhood. It's unseemly. I did think he'd be able to rejoin society at some point, but not anymore. He's getting worse, not better. I think it was a mistake taking Dr. Decker to see David. Dr. Decker wanted to examine him, so they went into a different room. I wasn't worried. David wouldn't speak. But Dr. Decker seemed very distant after that. He didn't say a word on the way back. My David would speak to Dr. Decker, but not his beloved wife? I don't think so, Doctor. And even if that were true, what would he say? What would he tell him? Perhaps I missed his vital organs. Perhaps by some strange freak of nature, he only appeared dead for a week and needed no food or water. Though there was an autopsy, so it's not likely. I think he was definitely dead. If David doesn't exist, then that means that I really did kill him. He really is buried, and I really should be going to prison for a very long time. That just doesn't seem right to me. It's more probable that I reanimated him under Dr. Decker's guidance. I think his brain was already decaying during the week that he was dead. Important bits. So when I brought him back to life, I didn't heal him completely. Just gave him life in the state he was in. I mean, he's hunting and killing things and trying to roast them on fires he can only light with matches, but that's about it. He's your basic Neanderthal. So I have a problem. I'm being charged with murder because the police don't know he's still alive, and I can't get David to vouch for me for obvious reasons. I think it would raise quite a few more questions than answers, which is why I'm hoping that you'd be able to help me. Considering the circumstances, I'd be grateful if you could see your way to declaring me temporarily insane at the time of the murder, to lessen my sentence. Because I'm not a killer, but I can't prove otherwise. You don't still think I'm a killer, do you, Doctor? Let's have a few more sessions before you seal our fates. Or is it that you want something else, like Dr. Decker did? Dr. Decker teased me mercilessly about my alleged ability. He didn't believe I'd reanimated David. Once he presented me with a dead mouse and commanded me to give it life again. I didn't, of course. It's not something I'd throw around lightly. He changed his mind about me eventually. And then he mentioned the girl. He told me he'd locked up a girl in the basement of his house, just for me, and he asked me to reanimate her. It was Iris. I said I couldn't reanimate something that wasn't dead, and he said that wouldn't be a problem. So I agreed. I just played along. I was hoping it wasn't real. I assumed it wasn't real. But he was offering me what I wanted, a temporary insanity diagnosis. It didn't happen. Dr. Decker called me from his house to cancel. He was furious. He said that Iris had escaped and he blamed me for it. He said that I must have set her free after he told me about her. I knew it was all lies anyways. He was obviously titillating himself by reprimanding me. He knew I'd never want to speak to Iris again, so I couldn't prove it either way. Dr. Decker asked if I could prove David wasn't dead, so I took him to the lake house. He saw that I was telling the truth. I can take you to see him too, if you like. Would you like to see David, Doctor? Since I brought him back, I felt that there was something different about him, something not quite right. I think it's his brain. But how ludicrous that you can bring someone back in the first place. It's like that book, Pet Cemetery. Funnily enough, he does smell of earth, but that's because he spends most of his time out hunting. He's not a zombie. He looks like he always did. Just his mind is encumbered. There's no way back. How astute, Doctor. Yes, I did say I hadn't seen Dr. Decker outside of our sessions. That wasn't a lie. Our trip to the lake house was made during a session. A paper spike is an odd thing to use as a weapon. I suppose if it went directly into the heart, it might work. Or through his eye, or perhaps through the ear and into his brain. Or was it just a frenzied, bloody mess of a murder? Do you know, Doctor? He was stabbed in the heart. Then I'd say whoever killed him didn't want to leave any room for error.
Hello, Doctor. I've been thinking about our last session, and I just wanted you to know that I'm not a bad person. I know taking naked photographs is wrong, but you don't know what it's like until you face the same temptation. I'm assuming you don't know what it's like. Do you have an extra hour, Doctor? I overheard your assistant earlier. I know about that paper spike. It was sharp. What I really wanted to tell you was, there's someone else in my hour. A hooded figure, watching me and following me. I followed it too. Dr. Decker frequently used that paper spike on his desk as an example. I'm sure he did it with the other patients too. He'd make me look at it, touch the point to see how sharp it was. He'd tell me that because I think it's sharp, it will hurt me. But if I thought it was nothing, it could pass right through my hand. I don't know who it is. My initial thought was that it was you. That I told you about my affliction and somehow you'd got it too. Now I think maybe it's the military or some organization that wants to use the hour themselves. Maybe it's Dr. Decker risen from the dead. I need to talk to you about him. I'm surprised I haven't been approached earlier. I mean, my skills in the military. Special ops would be a breeze, wouldn't it? Waltz in past everyone during the midnight hour, get whatever you want, and return to friendly soil. It also makes me think that they might already know all of that, and that they want to get rid of me in case I tell anyone else. Would you do something for me if they get me? Would you tell Jessica I love her? She didn't really know me that well, but I did love her. And also, there's a hard drive in the bottom drawer of my drinks cabinet. Please destroy it. Please, don't look at it. I spied on Dr. Decker, not long before he was murdered. I'm not sure I should tell you what I saw in his basement. I'd been feeling uneasy with Dr. Decker for some time. I mentioned how he'd changed before, so I began spying on him at home. One night, the basement door was open, and Decker was returning upstairs. I skipped past him, and there she was, a girl. It was difficult to tell, it was dark, and she was chained. Removed the chains, dressed her, and sat her in the police station. There's no evidence, though. No evidence of what he'd done. But she was free. I saved her. I'm not evil. I destroyed evil. The girl who was chained in the basement, her name is Iris. How do you know that? Not that it means anything. She wouldn't remember me anyway. Time was frozen. I had no idea there was a connection between those two. Wow. Behind closed doors, eh?
What? She was actually his prisoner. Bryce saved Iris? So that's 2 favors I owe Bryce now. And Iris? I'd probably have stopped her death if I'd known it was real. I suppose I should have a chat with her now. There was something delicious about the idea of getting revenge on Iris by having Dr. Decker kill her. But I'm not wicked.
No, I didn't feel lustful, Doctor. I was angry. If I had taken pictures, there would at least been some evidence. A sicker man would have taken pictures and saved the day. Whatever it is that's following me, it doesn't want to catch me yet. If I move towards it, it runs away. And when I follow it past temptations. A bar brawl, an open till, an open bedroom window. Like it's testing me. I split the brawl up. I'm not stealing anymore. I looked in. Watching other people is somehow built into our genes, Doctor. There was an old woman in bed. I went inside. Her bed covers were smoking. I think she'd fallen asleep holding a cigarette. I took the covers and put them in the bath. She'd have died otherwise. And no, I didn't take any pictures. I'm actually a classically trained pallbearer. There are a lot of health and safety considerations. Not everybody can do it. Well, properly at least. Occasionally I step in if the funeral director is short-shouldered. I do remember her face. She wasn't upset in the usual way. She seemed agitated. Her husband must have been a giant. The coffin was so heavy. I remember because aft port side sprained his ankle. That and he wasn't lifting correctly. I find using nautical terms to describe the position of pallbearers fitting. Plus, most of them are 3 sheets to the wind. You know, drunk. I have absolutely no idea what you're talking about, Doctor. I saw Claire Castleford's husband in the coffin myself before carrying him to the grave. He is in the ground. I'm sure it wouldn't take much for the police to get an order to have him exhumed. Just make sure it's done on Tuesday morning when I'm off. I put my hand through a rusty nail at work today. It hurt like hell and bled like I'd been shot. I closed my eyes and thought, this isn't happening. The nail is just a worm and it will wriggle through me. When I looked back, Can you guess what I saw? My hand had healed. The nail had become a worm and was wriggling in my palm. It was like a little miracle. Like magic. I shouldn't really say miracle or magic. They're words that Dr. Decker used when he tried to get you to think things and make them real. But do you think it's real, Doctor? That magic is real? I envy you, Doctor. I wish I could be so sure. Jessica is a beautiful woman. I've not spied on her since the incident we talked about. I have real feelings for her, Doctor. We've never connected. Thank you. It's nice you think I'm capable of such basic interaction with females. But I'm still in awe of her, really. I will think about it, though. I believe that Dr. Decker was a truly evil man, and so should you. I know you record these sessions, Doctor. I'm not going to be filmed saying I wanted him dead. But I did, and so should you. And Doctor, if I wanted to kill anyone, I'd do it in the midnight hour, wouldn't I? And when was Decker murdered? But then, even if I had, I'm not likely to tell you about it, am I, Doctor? I think that I'm becoming a good person, Doctor. I'm ashamed of some of the things I've done, but I'm getting better. The hooded figure, it's testing my morals. Judging me. For what? I don't know. I don't often see auras, Doctor. But yours is unusual. Like, you're more than one person. Maybe I've had a few too many drams. In the last couple of sessions I had with him, he put the spike through his hand. He'd be grinning at me while he was doing it. No blood, no nothing. He tried to make me do the same, but I wouldn't. I never spied on you at midnight. But if you start acting strangely, maybe I will. Sometimes a grave I've dug becomes undug. People blame it on grave robbers. Maybe. Maybe not. Maybe the grave was undug from the inside out, not the outside in. Only a gravedigger would know.
Professor Warwick, I'm a physicist. Where's Dr. Decker? Actually dead? Not a worthy adversary after all, then. He tried to use my theories against me. Quantum theories. Do you really want to know? Decker's eyes used to glaze over whenever we talked about that. He didn't believe in quantum physics. As if it's something that you can optionally believe in. Well, it started with an experiment. Quantum suicide is a thought experiment that tries to explain the many worlds theory. You're looking at me blankly. I can see that you don't understand. I knew you wouldn't. Alternate universes. Essentially, if I were to shoot myself, then in some alternate universe, I'd still be alive. Now imagine if I could actually choose that universe. I'm taking a product off a supermarket shelf. Well, I simply applied that logic to something different. I set up an experiment whereby I would visit a casino and place a very large bet at a roulette table. Now, I would always bet on odd. Now, the results of this particular experiment were mundane. I won as many times as you would expect according to the laws of probability. But then, I changed a parameter. Why not gambling? My wife Vanessa left me for a neurosurgeon. She emptied our entire combined wealth into her barrister's wallet. I needed more money. Physics provided me with a solution. We were married for 14 years, 7 months and 3 days. Vanessa couldn't have children, at least that's what she told me. She grounded me in reality. I'm not complaining. It's probably what I needed. But part of me always thought that one day I'd achieve immortality through science and we'd be... It wasn't to be, though. Well, yes, it bothered me, especially now that I find out that she's pregnant. Oh, no, it wasn't a rocket scientist that was required, but a brain surgeon, it seems. I have considered putting that neurosurgeon onto his darkest timeline. But I'm not a killer, it would seem. Quantum suicide required a loss of life to make it a realistic thought experiment. So I simply upped the stakes. Every time I bet on odd, I would place everything I had on that one spin of the wheel, and it worked. Well, for a while. Dr. Decker killed it, and I can't get it back. Well, my theory, quantum gambling. If the stakes are high enough, you will win every time by simply shifting your consciousness into that branch that wins. It's tricky, but it can be done. Dr. Decker didn't like that. He saw me becoming rich and powerful, and he hated that. That's why he proffered the hangman's paradox. Imagine a judge sentences you to death. Now, it will be Monday or Tuesday next week, but it will be a surprise. Well, which day do you think you'll be executed? Well, Monday does seem likely, yes. Because if you're still alive on Monday at midnight, then Tuesday won't be a surprise. But if you're sure that it's Monday, then that won't be a surprise either, will it? Decker tricked me. He told me that sometime in the future I would lose a bet, that I would lose all of my money. Now, this didn't seem likely because I had quantum gambling on my side and it was working. But he unnerved me, he made me doubt myself, and then it happened. Recently, I lost everything that I'd managed to build up since Vanessa left me. Honestly? Well, I think he feared quantum physics. He didn't like things being explained in terms of science, almost as if he'd have preferred chaos. I was at a fundraiser for a charity called Mindstretch Outreach. Don't know how I got roped into that, I can't remember. But it was full of very clever children with bizarre outlooks on life. And Jaya. It was Jaya who asked me to go. It's full of poor kids with very capable minds. I did give them a talk on quantum tunneling once, and they loved it. Not sure it'll put dinner on the table for any of them, though. I imagine she's your lovely assistant now. Yeah, she always smiles and makes me a cup of tea before a session. That smile. Which reminds me, my session. Can we talk about my problem now? I'm not a gambler, Doctor. I'm a scientist. I need more money. It's true I've run out of money for my research. An opportunity has arisen. Quantum gambling. It's a pet project. It's got nothing to do with work. But if I don't have significant amounts of money to lose, then there won't be enough jeopardy for the experiment to work. A very wealthy group of individuals have offered to pay me a very large sum of money if I attend their next private soiree. They don't want a talk or anything like that. They want a practical demonstration. They'll pay me £1 million if I can successfully survive 6 rounds of Russian roulette. Now, I am worried because of what Dr. Decker said, but, well, I can't help but thinking that the stakes are so high I can't possibly lose. What do you think, Doctor? Should I take them up on their offer? No, I suppose you're right. In a darker timeline, you probably said yes, and I'm dead now. I earn good money where I work. How do I stop losing it? I take your point. But I suppose to decide whether to continue gambling or to stop gambling is a gamble within itself, isn't it? Well, my time is up. Will we be having another session or... No, don't answer that. It'll turn you into a gambler like me. Infectious, isn't it?
Rise and shine, old-timer. It is complete. I I had our best and brightest working overtime, fine-tuning the greatest burger the world has ever known.